From ABC News, this is World News Saturday. Here's Carol Simpson.
Good evening. The U.S. today accused Iraq of waging indiscriminate environmental war by pouring at least 6 million barrels of crude oil into the Persian Gulf. And the U.S. condemned Baghdad for creating an environmental disaster unprecedented in that region. That harsh rhetoric came on a day in which Iraqi warplanes found themselves landing in neighboring Iran, and Saudi Arabia and Israel once again came under Scud missile attack. The latest from ABC's Forrest Sawyer.
The oil is pouring into the shallow Persian Gulf at a disastrous rate, more than 4 million gallons a day, killing hundreds of seabirds, endangering the Gulf's dolphins.
Iraq is intentionally creating the worst environmental disaster in the history of the Persian Gulf region. It's conducting an indiscriminate environmental war on its neighbors as well as on the plant and animal life in the region.
Parts of the oil slick, which is now 30 miles long and 8 miles wide, are on fire, slowly burning down. President Bush is sending a team of experts to help the Saudis try to contain the slick. As it slowly moves south, Saudi officials worry the critical desalination plants that provide 90% of the country's water will be threatened. In another development, the U.S. now confirms at least a dozen and probably more Iraqi warplanes have landed at airfields in Iran. Iran claims to be neutral and says it will not allow the planes to return. But the U.S. Defense Department is far from certain.
What I'm unsure of is whether this is a planned effort on the part of the Iraqi leadership to husband resources to go away and fight another day, or whether these pilots are defecting.
Once again tonight, Patriot missiles were launched over the Saudi capital of Riyadh, scoring another interception of a Scud missile. And from last night, the first close combat photos of a Patriot firing. The intermittent rain of Iraqi missiles has kept Patriot battery teams and local residents scrambling at the sound of air raid sirens.
You know, it's scary. It's scary knowing that you're in danger here and some guy's shooting missiles at you.
Air Force F-15s were firing missiles today over Iraq, knocking down what are believed to be 3 MiG-23s. In the past 2 days, Allied forces have averaged over 2,000 sorties a day and lost not a single plane. That is a success rate unequaled in wartime history, and a performance that's a clear sign of air superiority. Carol?
Thank you, Forrest. Secretary of State Baker said tonight that Iran has assured the U.S. through diplomatic channels that those Iraqi fighter planes will remain in Iran for the duration of the war, and that Iran will remain neutral. ABC News today obtained videotape from Iraqi television and from worldwide television news that show some of the civilian casualties and property destruction caused by the ongoing Allied air assault. The pictures were approved for release by Iraqi censors and purport to show the northern cities of Al-Dur and Kirkuk. Here's ABC's Sheila McVicker.
The Iraqis say this is Kirkuk. It was targeted because of its oil fields and refineries. The Iraqis have not said how many people died here. It appears at least some of the casualties were children. In all, the Iraqis claim 91 dead. Foreign journalists who have left the country believe there have been many more. And for the third day in a row, the Iraqis released pictures of Al-Dur, 100 miles north of Baghdad. In briefings in Washington, military officials said Al-Dur was targeted because of its military installations. Look around you, this man says. To the horizon, all you see are farms and houses. In the local cemetery, there are 24 new graves. Even at prayer, Iraqis are now not immune from the war. In Mosul, a small community of Christians celebrated Mass in a church the Iraqis say was damaged by bombs earlier in the week. And at this mosque in Baghdad, the faithful were called upon to launch a holy war. Said the Imam, "This is our destiny. We should fight this war today against all those allied against us." Sheila McVicker, ABC News, Amman.
Iraq launched its 6th Scud missile attack against Israel today. This time, U.S. Patriot missiles and the crews manning them performed with great accuracy. As ABC's Gary Shepard reports, the targets were Haifa and Tel Aviv.
It was just after 10 p.m. in Tel Aviv when the air raid sirens went off. Moments later, Patriot missiles were fired to stop the Scud attack, both here and in Haifa to the north. An Israeli army spokesman said all 4 scuds were intercepted and there were no casualties this time, even though some flaming debris could be seen falling over Tel Aviv. That was not the case yesterday, when heavy damage was inflicted on a Tel Aviv suburb after 2 out of 7 Scud missiles got through the Patriot defenses and a few Patriots themselves fell to earth and exploded. Tel Aviv residents, despite their fear, ventured out into the hardest hit area today to take a look.
It's hard to believe that this is happening.
We're going to retaliate sooner or later, I'm sure.
Even though most Israelis support the government's policy of not fighting back, at least not right now, it appears that many are beginning to lose their patience. Gary Shepard, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
The war will be the topic tomorrow on This Week with David Brinkley. Among the guests, Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Aarons and White House Chief of Staff John Sununu. In the city of Adana in southern Turkey today, near an air base that Allied forces are using to launch air attacks against Iraq, an explosion damaged a car outside the U.S. consulate, and a second blast blew the door off the Turkish-American Association. No injuries were reported. In our next segment, anti-war protesters converge on the nation's capital, and the people who make the Patriot